Hey, so today is day 6 of the 67 sets program. I'm just going to go through some of my notes here, things I picked up and learned. So today Ty was talking about the media and the idea of sculpturing your life versus wanting the quick fix and instant gratification, and the effect that media has on our perceptions. So one of the main takeaways I took from this, which is something I already knew a bit about, was about the narrative bias in the media. So when the media tends to look at successful people, for example, or having a great body, it tends to oversimplify the work involved. And so it's always promising a quick fix, or is looking at a very simplified version of the truth. So, and one obvious example is look at adverts that are promising instant results for, losing weight. It might be the latest fat burning pill, the latest workout thing, and they show someone in great shape working out for 30 seconds, and then you think, oh, I'll buy this and I'll be in great shape and I'll be fit. So we kind of expect that instant gratification. The media has, tuned us to be that way, and that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because he kind of explains that success is exponential progress, so it happens over time. You need time to see those results, time to see the doubling. You can't just expect those results immediately, even if you change your habits. So he says you follow the 67 sets program, and then after 67 days, you've kind of started changing some habits, but you won't instantly see the results of that turn up in your life. It may take, some days, some weeks, some months after that. For you putting these things in practice day after day, step by step, you'll start to see those results. So don't let the media fool you, basically, and just focus on that directional path. Keep chipping away every day at your sculpture. So whether you're trying to sculpt, your body, or you're trying to sculpt your financial wealth, you just spend each day trying to be a little wiser than you were when you woke up, and then you'll build that discipline step by step, and then you'll see the results come with that. So that's pretty much what the key lessons were. I've also been reading the book on focus, which is one of his book reviews, and there's some interesting insights from there as well that relates. One cool thing he talks about in the book is this test they did on some of the kids in school in New Zealand. I think it was testing self-control. So what they did was they sat the kids in a room with a teacher or an adult, and they left a marshmallow on the table, and they said to the kid, if you want this marshmallow now, you can have it. But if you wait 15 minutes, I'm going to come back. I'm going to go out the room and come back. If you wait 15 minutes, you'll get two. And then they tested, how many of the kids went for the marshmallow straight away, how many could hold out for how long, and how many actually lasted the full 15 minutes. So I think the results were about a third took the marshmallow straight away and couldn't wait. Another third took it some time in between the 15 minutes the adult was out of the room, and the other third actually waited and got the two marshmallows. So that was basically a demonstration of self-control, which is something that can be learned. So they probably learned that from their parents, or didn't learn it from their parents. And then they followed up with those kids, I think 20 years later, when they were adults, and they looked at their their success in life, so their financial wealth, whether they've committed any crimes, all kind of indicators of their life. And it's quite interesting because the study showed basically that the self-control was a greater indication of and predictor of their future wealth than other statistics, other metrics like IQ or social class. Those things didn't have as much of a correlation as the ones that had self-control when they were young. So the kids that had that self-control when they grew up, they basically were more successful in life, able to save more, able to be more successful financially, and obviously committing less crime and things like that. So this comes back to instant gratification, being patient and knowing when to wait, and being realistic about how long something's going to take, and not always looking for the quick fix. And so another great example of this in society is people who pay the lottery, because really they're just looking for a quick fix. They don't want to do the hard work to think about the journey, the process is going to take to generate that much wealth. So they just think, oh, I'll play the lottery and I'll win one day, and that's their solution. That's their method for getting rich. And obviously that doesn't work for most people, because you spend thousands on the lottery and you don't get anything back from it. So Ty gave an example when he was younger and he fell into this trap. For one of his birthdays or Christmas, he asked his family for 200 lottery tickets. So that's $1 each. So spending $200 on lottery tickets when he was young, and then he started to open them up. And he opened up, each one by one. He started getting less enthusiastic. He started to realize he wasn't even going to make his money back. So in the end, I think he won. He said he won something like $15 from all the scratch cards, and obviously he paid $200 for it. So After that, he never played again, and he kind of learned his lesson. And so you really need to learn to stop looking for that quick fix. Try and use the old school methods and set an 18-month goal. So give yourself enough time to see that success that you want to realize in your life. And again, he gave kind of a funny example. These type 2 diabetics, who obviously that diabetes is triggered by their diet typically, and so they were put on this calorie restriction diet of 400 calories a day plus exercise, and surprise, surprise, the diabetes symptoms disappeared. So the takeaway is not to do something so extreme, but to show you that you don't need to have a major magic pill that can do something for you, because you can train your body, you can discipline your body to do all those things for you, and to see results just naturally. So that's definitely an interesting takeaway. The question he asked is, what is the number one area that you've taken a lottery approach in your life? It could be in body, in health, in finance, social situations, and that kind of thing. So for me, I think the biggest area that I've tried to do that is to shortcut wealth and wealth accumulation. And haven't played the lottery. I know a lot of people do that. Some of my family do that, and I've told them now to stop that, because it's just a false way of thinking. But the area that I've probably failed in that sense and tried lottery approach is to play the stock market. And when you read about stocks, you think you can time the market, you probably can pick the right stocks, but to use it as your primary method of wealth generation, I think it doesn't really work. You can use it more passively to grow your portfolio by having some stocks in your portfolio, but to actually sit there and try to time the market and day trade the market, I think that's been one of my biggest mistakes, to thinking, because I had some success early on and I kind of thought, yeah, I can just do this full time. But obviously the market's super volatile, harder now than ever, with all the robots in the market to try and beat these smart computers and smart traders. So I think that that's one area I need to be a bit smarter about, and spend more time on business and less time trying to trade the stock market and time the tops and bottoms, because that's definitely a shortcut approach. So that's one thing I'm going to really take on board and rethink how I do this, because I think you can have long-term success, and it's more about consistency. So if you just keep building your business, keep adding to your wealth portfolio, and then that's diversified across stocks and bonds and things, then you can grow wealth, but you can't generate it from zero. You can't. That's not how people become millionaires. If you look at the top Forbes list, it's not stock traders. It's people that have made their money in other industries, in oil and telecoms, those kind of businesses. So yeah, that's true. It's interesting. There's obviously a lot of hedge fund managers out there, but again, they too, they're managing other people's money, so they haven't necessarily grown their portfolio from scratch, from zero, for themselves. And there's very, very few people, probably exceptional few traders, that have done that. So unless you have a great mentor or you're really gifted in that sense, very few people will have that success. And that's probably the same kind of odds as winning the lottery, in terms of what are the chances of you actually having success by doing that. So for me, that's definitely the number one area I've taken a lottery approach. In the past I've done the same thing with diets, trying different exercise routines, probably fallen for all the same shit you see on the TV, and then realize it doesn't work, and then stop doing it. So you can't really escape the media 100%. It's always going to be around you, but if you learn how to view it, and you kind of see the inherent bias built in, then you question things more. You don't necessarily accept what you see, what you hear, what you read. So basically, you've got to question everything. You've got to question what this agenda is of this news channel, or this newspaper, or this magazine, and how much weight to give it. And for me, I don't even watch TV anymore. I mean, I download programs and movies that I want to watch, and I choose when I want to watch them. I don't just sit down in front of the TV and plug myself in and let myself be brainwashed, because I think that's just the surest way to being miserable, is letting the TV tell you what to do, how to think, and obviously in a good way to get healthy as well, is to crash on the sofa. So I think that's one lesson I learned a while ago. But the media is very pervasive. You can go on the internet and you'll find all kinds of opinions. And everyone has some bias and some agenda, so you want to make sure you're not trying to find shortcuts, looking for 10 great tips to a healthy body or something. Like you can just follow these 10 simple tips and you'll have an amazing body. Everything takes work, everything takes time, so you need to learn to just like you said, step by step, having discipline, chipping away like a sculpture, and just spending time every day in the right direction and get that consistency. And that's where I've seen the greatest gains in my health recently. Is obviously just doing that every day, just doing a bit of yoga every day, a bit of skipping, a bit of meditation, just setting up a practice. And finding a way to do that it's almost automatic. You don't have to think about it. It doesn't take willpower, because you have a limited amount of willpower every day, and if you use it up, you kind of run out of it. And so you want to save your willpower for the really important decisions. You want to make things as automatic as possible and as easy as possible. And so that's kind of something that's in that focus book as well I mentioned earlier, is about willpower, how our brain is trained. You had this top-down versus bottom-up circuitry in your brain, and it's always a tug of war between, for example, if there's some chocolate in the fridge and your brain is thinking about the chocolate, your attention is for a very bottom-up driven. You're always thinking, oh, there's chocolate in the fridge, there's chocolate in the fridge. And I had this kind of problem sometimes, so I don't like to keep bad food in the house because it's testing my willpower, and I think, well, that's just stupid. Why am I going to drain on my willpower on something as trivial as that? So the trick is for me not to have chocolate in the fridge. Some people can do it, some people can't. I'm not sure how I can retrain my brain not to be driven or distracted by that bottom-up circuitry, which is very hard to control, and it's just like a battle. So your top-down brain will then come in with some logic like, oh, that chocolate bar is going to make you fat, or that thing's going to make you fat, so don't eat it. But then it's just a constant war in your head, and you're taking up a lot of energy away from whatever you should be focusing on. So if that's something that you think rings true for you and you struggle with, then you probably benefit from just not having those distractions around. And then, like I said, making your healthy routines as automatic and predictable as possible. So one thing that I've noticed with meditation, for example, is I try and do it every day, but sometimes I'll get distracted, because typically I do it after several things. So I'll get up, I'll work out, I'll read, and then I'll have a shower, and then I'll meditate. But if some days I want to go out earlier than others, or someone needs my help, or I get distracted on something, I can get pulled away from that, and I might forget, I might run out of time, I might say, I'll meditate later or whatever, and then you lose that consistency, you lose that practice. Another example is if you go to the gym, and your gym's not very close to you, then it's just too far away, it's just too hard to get the willpower to get up, especially if it's cold outside, it's grey, you don't want to get up, you don't want to go out in the cold, and you're testing your willpower a lot every day. So what I've done is I've managed to set up an exercise routine that I can do in my house. If it's cold, I don't need to go out. I can go outside and do skipping within 30 seconds, come back in. It's just automatic. I can just do it very, very easily. There's very little friction on doing those things. For the meditation, what I've just tried today, which is interesting, is actually doing it first thing as I get up, because that's before any distractions come. You've got to wake up every day. If you train yourself every day instantly to start your meditation, then there's very little chance you can miss it, because if you're up before everyone else, you won't get distracted. You're not turning on your phone, turning on your PC, looking at work, looking at email. It comes before all of that, and it's a great way to set the intention for the rest of the day. So I was up at 6 a.m. this morning, managed to read for a little bit and do my meditation, and I'm going to try making that the first thing I do every day, and make sure that it's easy to do and it's consistent that way, and I'm not missing any days. So that's really the key takeaways from today's lesson, and I'll be back tomorrow with more.